Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renee Novak at blessedbycards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm here today to share with you a Make It Monday tutorial. Today I'm starting a 4-part series that I am calling Quilting with Paper Scraps. So we all have scraps of designer series paper or pattern paper that we absolutely love and just did not want to get rid of. So today I'm going to share with you how to create this star just using a few strips of that designer series paper and turning that into what looks like a quilt block. So for this particular paper, I used the True Blue. It was a product of the month, and this is some of my scraps that were left over from that. And so because of that, I chose the Balmy Blue card base and some Night of Navy for my accent pieces and my ink. So depending on what scraps of paper you choose, your colors may look different. Okay, so for card number 2 that I created, I used the Lovely and Beautiful designer series paper, and these are some of the scraps that I had left over from that. And on this one, I chose to use the Highland Heather and the garden green, or the old olive, I'm sorry, old olive, to pull out that from that paper. And those were my strips that I used to create this. So you're going to use whatever you have on hand and whatever your favorite thing is, but make sure that your card base coordinates with your designer series paper that you choose. Okay, so the second thing you're going to have to choose is an embossing folder. For this one, I used the hammered metal, which I believe is retired. And on this one, the first one, I used the new Swirled Magic embossing folder. Kind of love that one. And then for the one that we're going to create today, I am going to use the Lazy Daisy embossing folder. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to choose your card base color and your strips of paper, and that will help you determine what to do. And so I have created these two colors I'm using. I'm going to go with the Mossy Meadow and the Blackberry Bliss, and these are the strips that I am going to use today. I'm going to use some designer series paper, Mossy Meadow, the Blackberry Bliss, and then a couple of the designer series paper. And then so what I did was I chose my card front to be, I'm going to put my quilt block here, and then I just chose my greeting and stamped it with Blackberry Bliss, and then I mounted it up on some layers. All of the surprise and all the measurements of everything I'm doing today will be available on my blog at blessedbycards.com in a free project sheet download. So let me walk you through the steps on how to actually create the quilted block look. Okay, so for this, you want to start out with a 3x3 piece of white or vanilla, depending on your designer series paper of choice. And then you're just going to want to simply make a big X on that white embossed card base. Now don't worry, you don't have to erase this. This is not going to show. We're going to cover the whole thing up with our designer series paper. So the first thing you're going to need to do is just figure out where you want your pieces to be, and then you're going to just kind of lay them on here. We're going to glue this side first, and then we're going to lay down that coordinating piece on this side. Actually, I think we're going to go this way. And then you're going to come back in with another piece that goes like this. And then you're going to want to weave this piece in on the last to make it a weaved look. Okay, and so because we have to weave this last piece in, we're only going to put adhesive on half of our areas at a time. Okay, so the first place you're going to put glue is on this side of the line. You're going to want to put some glue straight down there, and let me grab my glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right there, and then I'm going to place my first piece straight down on that side of the line that I drew. And you do kind of want to make sure that it goes over. It doesn't have to go over a lot. I cut my pieces 1/2 inch by 6 inches to give me plenty of room. But if you want to go closer to the edge, you can. Just make sure that the whole square is covered. Okay, and we're only gluing half at a time because we're going to weave. So the next bit of glue is going to go up here. And then we're going to glue our second piece down. Okay, and then the next bit of glue is going to go right along this side of that mark, and we're going to put it right like this. So we're going to put glue on this side right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right down there. And maybe just a titch right on there so I can get that. And then I'm going to glue this one straight down here. And then this last piece we're going to want to weave in here so that it goes like this. So we're just going to put the glue up here, right along this edge here. And we're going to weave that underneath there. Get it in as close as you can to your pencil line. Then all you have to do is go around now and put a little bit of glue where it's not stuck down. So it'd be over here. Sorry if my hands are in the way. And then down here or up here, depending on where you still need glue. Just want to glue those all down. It is a little tricky when you're gluing on top of an embossing folder, so you might have to hold it down a little bit longer, and then you can get those to layer down on like that. Okay, so after you're done with that, you're going to want to get your paper snips, and after the glue has dried, you're going to flip it over and you're just going to trim off each of those squares. I'm just gonna right to the corner where it is going to make it nice and even. Okay, so that is how it's going to look. And then you're going to get, I'm going to get rid of these paper scraps here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in those four corners of those 1-inch pieces that we already did. And we're going to glue them on the corners of each one of these to give us a quilted pattern look. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in my glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on each one of these and stick them again right in the corner. And this is what makes that quilted pattern look, because it truly looks like it's embedded in there. And this gives you that depth of dimension that makes that star pop in the center. And again, you can use any designer series paper, any embossing folder that you think would look good with quilting, whatever you have on hand. This is a super simple project. I will have all the supplies and all the measurements on my blog at blessedbycards.com, and you'll be able to download a free project sheet that shows you the measurements for all of these cards. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to just bring in my glue again. And I'm just going to stick that right on top of there. And I am going to stick that right down on the center of my square. And again, your square may be different than mine because yours is going to coordinate with your designer series paper colors. And again, I'm using the Mossy Meadow and the Blackberry Bliss. Okay, and I do recommend using the liquid glue because you do have a little more wiggle room with that. You can certainly use snail. Just remember to only put it on half of your strip at a time. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my card base, and I'm going to stick that straight down on there. So we're just going to grab a little bit more glue for back here. And I'm just going to pop that straight on top of there. And then I'm going to take my greeting that I've already prepared. I did a layer of Mossy Meadow, some Blackberry Bliss, and then my happy birthday is on a piece of white. And all the measurements will be on my blog at blessedbycards.com. And I stamped that happy birthday with the Blackberry Bliss card. So that's how super simple that card comes together. It's just a matter of remembering where you're putting half of your glue on and then just building your star. And it looks like a star because we added these extra little pieces of white on top to really give it that quilted look. So that is card number 3. And so those are the 3 cards for today. Join me on Wednesday for another tutorial for quilting with paper. And we're going to make a few more cards using a different quilting technique. So be sure to hop on over to my blog at blessedbycards.com, download your free project sheet, and of course you can shop at my online store 24/7. So thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to stop back on Wednesday. And until then, be blessed.